You know, most of us just assume our cities have a plan for the worst-case scenario. But what if it's built on a dangerous illusion? We're about to put one city's safety blueprint under the microscope, and frankly, the results might make you question just how prepared your own community really is. Just imagine it for a second. An earthquake hits. A flood warning blares on your phone. Panic starts to set in. You grab your family, and you have to get to safety, like right now. But where? Where exactly is that? And look, for millions of people, this isn't some hypothetical. It's a life-or-death question that cities are supposed to have a solid answer for.
So before we dive into where things can go so wrong, let's talk about what right is even supposed to look like. In disaster management, there's a really clear concept for a place of refuge. It's basically the cornerstone of any good emergency plan.
So the official term for these is assembly areas. Now, these aren't just random parks or city squares. No. They are supposed to be carefully chosen, pre-planned locations where you and your neighbors can go to be safe, to get help, and to start recovering. Think of it as your city's official lifeboat.
And here it is. This is pretty much the ultimate safety checklist. It shows you that a real safe zone isn't just a dot on a map. It has to be spacious enough for everybody. It's got to be accessible, right? You need to be able to get there. It needs to be equipped with the basics, water, power, and crucially, it has to be located away from other dangers. It needs to actually be functional. This is the gold standard we should all be hoping for.
Okay, so let's move from that perfect blueprint to a real-world reality check. We're going to Erzurum, a city in Turkey, a country that knows the devastating power of earthquakes all too well. Researchers there decided to really dig into their city's plan, and what they found is a huge lesson for cities everywhere.
First things first, let's get a baseline. Disaster management experts say you need a minimum of 2.5 square meters of assembly area space per person. Okay? That's about the size of a small tent. It's the absolute bare minimum you need to avoid dangerous overcrowding in a crisis. So remember that number, 2.5.
Now, when researchers looked at the citywide average for Erzurum back in 2022, this is the number they came up with, 3.07 square meters per person. So on the surface, that looks pretty good, right? I mean, it's above the minimum. It seems like the city has enough space.
And that is the question, isn't it? If the numbers look good, then the job's done. But as we're about to see, a simple average can be incredibly misleading. It can create this dangerous illusion of safety, and it can hide some really deep systemic problems.
And right here, we see the first crack in the facade. This chart shows that while the average was, still above the minimum, it was heading in completely the wrong direction. Between 2018 and 2022, as the population was growing, the average space for each person actually shrank. The city's safety net wasn't keeping up. It was literally getting smaller.
You know, the researchers themselves didn't pull any punches. This quote gets right to the heart of it. The city's plan was falling behind. They just weren't keeping up with their own growth, which made the existing safe zones less and less effective over time. So the really scary takeaway here is that a plan from just a few years ago might already be dangerously out of date.
But believe me, that shrinking average, that was just the tip of the iceberg. The research uncovered 5 critical flaws, showing how the city's plan failed to meet almost every single item on that safety checklist we looked at a minute ago.
First up, just getting there. I mean, a safe zone you can't reach is completely useless. The study found that a lot of these assembly areas were simply too far away. They'd require long walks that would be basically impossible for so many people. Think about the elderly or families trying to manage small kids in the middle of chaos.
Second, we've got the problem with averages. While the citywide number looked okay, nearly 1 in 5 of the designated assembly areas were below that 2.5 square meter standard. That means thousands of people could be directed to a safe zone that is actually a trap, a place that's dangerously overcrowded from the second they arrive.
Okay, this next one is it's shocking. The study found that some of these designated safe havens were located in places that are themselves dangerous. We're talking areas at risk of flooding or soil liquefaction during an earthquake. Can you imagine that? Escaping one disaster only to be led directly into another one? It's wild.
So let's say you make it there. What happens when you arrive? Well, in many of these locations, you'd find nothing. The study pointed out a huge lack of basic infrastructure. No guaranteed access to clean drinking water, no power for communication or medical gear, not even working toilets. It's just a location, not a refuge.
And finally, there's functionality. You know, a lot of these designated spots like schools or public parks, they sound good on paper, But are they actually equipped to serve as a base for first aid, or as temporary shelter, or for distributing food and water? The answer was no. They just can't perform the critical functions you need in the hours and days after a disaster.
Okay, I know that picture seems pretty bleak, but the point of this research isn't just to point out failures, it's to find a path forward. The study lays out a really clear, actionable roadmap for turning these flawed spaces into genuine, life-saving refuges. And honestly, it's a refreshingly straightforward plan. First, you have to reevaluate every single location and make sure it's big enough. Step 2, prioritize access so everyone can actually get there quickly and safely. Third, you've got to invest in that essential infrastructure, water, power, the works. And fourth, and this one is so critical, use the data to move any of these assembly areas out of high-risk zones. The point is, these problems are fixable.
So this brings us right back to where we started, but with a whole new perspective. The case of Erzurum shows us that having a plan on a piece of paper is not the same thing as actually being prepared. And it forces us all to ask a really tough question. Do we really know what our city's plan looks like? Is it just an illusion of safety, or is it a genuine lifeline we can count on when we need it most?